Hello, star people. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Chrys King. I'm a shamanic healer, psychic medium, astrologer, ascension guide, and creator of the Medicine Alchemist and Ascended Astrology. I assist awakened souls, light workers, and starseeds like yourself heal, connect with spirit and star beings, create 5D businesses, and ascend the false matrix. And this podcast will take you on a multi-dimensional journey through the world of shamanism, ascended astrology, UFOs and starseed contact, conspiracy theories, or should I say truths, and the multi-dimensional nature of reality, with the intention of bridging the gap between 3D and 5D so that we can ascend the matrix together. And today on the show, I have a very interesting guest, Xane Daniel, who is a Hathor energy healer, accomplished publisher, and captivating speaker. He teaches people how to remove negative entities, possessions, implants, curses, and cords by raising their vibrational frequency, retuning the subconscious mind, overcoming childhood traumas and blockages, and helping them step into their own power. His graphic novel series Righteous and his unique modality Soul Essence Activation are both powerful catalysts for the enlightenment for readers and clients alike. Thank you all so much for joining me for another episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Chrys King, and I'm here with a very special guest, Xane Daniel. Xane, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Our work is very similar. We do a lot of similar types of work. I don't see the word shamanism used on your website anywhere, nor do you possibly consider yourself that, but it does feel very interdimensional, multidimensional, like shamanic work, and you deal a lot with entities, which is a conversation that has come up a couple of times on this podcast, but we haven't gone as deeply into it. I haven't had anyone who specifically is an expert around removing entities on the podcast. So I really want to go into that. But I also know that you're a light worker. So much of the work, if not all of the work that you do, is serving humanity and the collective in raising our vibration and tapping out of the false matrix. But entity removal, I know you have is it a program called Detached?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to talk about all of these things. You even have a program. It's like a multi-week program called Detached about removing entities. So share with the audience all about yourself and how you got to this point, because I know there was something that happened with medicine, and that's my world, plant medicine.
Right.
I know something happened with you with ayahuasca, if I'm not mistaken, and
That's
that
correct.
opened you up. So take us back into all of that and share, and then we'll go into what you offer.
Okay, sure. Well, so I was pretty much raised in a science-based family. My father was an electrical engineer, and my grandfather was a chemical engineer. So I pretty much always had science as the leading philosophy to life. And so I was not even introduced to religion through the family at all, and I had no interest in spirituality or anything like that because it couldn't be proven, right? And so it wasn't until and I went through my life as a producer in the video game industry. So I was surrounded by engineers for software engineers. So still, it extended through most of my life. And then I had, like you described, an ayahuasca experience, and this really did change everything because within just a minute or two, I was suddenly speaking to a being that wasn't necessarily me, right? And so everything changed in that moment. I said, okay, so there is a lot more going on here than I could have ever understood. And so now what does this interesting being have to say? I didn't just out of hand reject it. I didn't run screaming and say, no, 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 this breaks my understanding of reality. I was pretty excited about what this could mean and what I could learn from this being. And and right away it started teaching me things about how the universe worked and that we have multiple lives and all the standard things that we
When you
all know
say
now.
it, Xane, are you referring to the spirit of grandmother ayahuasca, or are you referring to another being that stepped forward in your journey, or was this your higher self?
Right. That, I never
Or all of
have,
it?
yeah, I never really have tried to ascertain who that first voice was.
Did
But
it
it
feel
was,
feminine to you? Did it
no, it did
feel
not. It actually felt
okay?
masculine.
Yeah.
So,
So that's what I'm feeling, is that you were interfacing with a being that she took you to, which happens.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
really
that
cool.
could very well be because in future ayahuasca experiences, I did definitely
Interface with
speak
her.
to,
Yes.
yes, her,
Yeah.
right.
Your first encounter with the grandmother is usually weird. It's like a first impression. You have to first get used to her energy. So you're going to have an experience with ayahuasca. It has DMT in it. So you were crossing
Right.
dimensions. But once you've worked with her a couple times, then you could really interface with the her. But who do you feel that that being was
That
guiding
first
you? Do you
being.
know?
It's interesting because I was able to continue speaking to that being for years
Yeah, after
afterwards,
that.
even without being in the ayahuasca experience.
Right.
And there was a point where I remember asking him, we'll go ahead and give it a gender. I
Yeah.
remember asking him who he was, and he immediately said, "It doesn't matter. What matters is the healing. What matters is the insight. What matters is, this connection." And
Yeah.
so I dismissed it immediately. I said, "Okay, sounds good to me. I'm not interested in
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
figure that out." And I remember that so strongly, and I reference it frequently when I'm working with people who are, I believe, overly concerned about what type of entity it is,
Right.
what
Exactly.
type of, well, who their actual spirit guides are, that
Right.
sort of thing, because I see it as
It
a
is.
distraction from how powerful they truly are
Yeah.
and how they don't necessarily need to identify that, but that identification process temporarily makes you feel comfortable,
Yeah.
right? As soon as you go, oh, it's this, that feels good. You get
Yeah.
the dopamine release, and
Absolutely.
you're focused on that little tidbit of information, which plays no role at all
I
in
think
that
it's almost
whole
primal
process.
or primitive too, because when we're dealing with entities in the higher dimensions, sometimes they are just light and they're appearing through our translation and through the co creation with our psyche. They're appearing as a winged being or as a geometric shape or something. So there's a lot to it that isn't solid the way we want it to be. But I also feel that humans need to hurry up and make sure it's an ascended master, because if it's not, what if it's something not good? Right?
Right.
The unknown scares us too about all of this. At least if we know if it's Yeshua and Saint Germain and Archangel Michael, well, they're the good guys, so we don't have to worry about it.
Right.
And your
Yes,
work definitely deals with the opposite of
right,
that kind of
exactly. And
energy.
yeah, we're already going to that, which is great. What happens is in many cases, oh man, I don't even know how many cases. I would say at least 50%. The entity first appears and tells them that they are their spirit guides. Probably
Right.
Archangel Michael is the number one
I'm
name
sure.
that they
I'm
come
sure.
up with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so they try to establish themselves as a helper, but it doesn't take very long before you begin to hear the advice or the uh, the insults that are not of high frequency
I've
in
had this
nature,
happen
right?
to me, Zane. I've had Jesus appear and could feel, and as sweet as this being was being, it just there were cracks in the foundation. It didn't add up. Just calling
Yeah.
himself Jesus when that entity would know that I would prefer Yeshua. The just little things like that I had to really be discerning about in that moment when it came to me and impressed itself upon me. I had to realize I'm dealing with something that is imitating a Jesus, and this could even be coming from the Vatican or something. It could be some
Right.
kind of program being emitted, and I interfaced with it. And that's why when we talk about spirit guides and ascended masters and angels, we are talking about beings of light, or oftentimes beings who are thought forms or constructs that we've created, which do have a life of their own, but they are not better or more evolved than we are. We're constantly giving our power away to angels
Oh
and
yeah.
guides. And it's part of moving out of the age of Pisces and that religion that we were in for so long of giving
Hmm.
power away. But
Yep.
also it's fear. If we can name it as good, then we can all agree upon it. And we know, you and I, that once we start tapping into the fourth dimension and higher, what's good and bad starts to get really convoluted. And the agreements and the laws of physics start to change. So there are other types of energies or entities that can interface with us as well and can also imitate, or like we use the term false light a lot on this show, kind of imitate beings of light or beings that we believe are made of light. Has that come up for you in your work?
Oh, for sure. But I want to steer us away from that because it's once again a distraction. It's once again their efforts to try to make you feel bad. Entities have no energy themselves. The only way they get it is from you, right?
Can you
So
explain to the audience, when you say the word entity, because it is a broad term, what you mean by it specifically? Because it sounds alarming to some people.
I
Years
know.
ago, when I was much younger, when someone used the word, you have an entity on you, which I know
Uh,
is rather common, it's part of
uh,
existing in this dimension. When someone used the term entity, it felt very alarming and intimidating, right?
right.
So if
Okay.
you're talking about a
Well,
thought form that is not even capable on its own of creating reality or creating its own reality without using you as a host, that sounds more like a insect or a mosquito
yeah,
rather than
it's
some boogeyman that someone needs to
right.
be afraid of.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. Okay, so there's so much to say here, but one thing that I still want to come back to is that I don't care what they are.
Yeah.
It's a distraction again. We're being drawn into the negative, let's call it low frequency realm. The more that we pursue, the more that we're interested in it. I mean, we can be interested in it kind of from a distance, but to really just go, what matters is that I am a being of light here on this world.
Mm.
I'm masquerading as a human for 80 quick years, and then I'm going to go back to being this infinite being of light. So all of these things that happen here aren't important in a way, right? We
Yeah.
don't need to take
I
it so
understand what you mean.
seriously, right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about an entity, okay, so I don't usually define them because I don't need to. It's almost unnecessary because again, it's the individual and their being of lightness that matters. So, but you asked me to define them. So here I went down this little path trying to figure out how to do it. And I went, okay, well, one way you could say it is it's a low frequency spirit that has no ability to gain its own energy. All it can do is siphon off yours.
Yeah.
Well, and the only way that it can do that is by convincing you that the thoughts that you need to be having, that the emotions that you need to be having are all low frequency.
Hmm.
If it can convince you that that's where your brain needs to be, your energy field needs to be, then it takes that energy.
Yeah.
So, in going all the way back to it being an imposter, saying that it's Jesus in your case or
Yeah.
Archangel Michael, then what it's trying to do is not to allow get you to allow it in because it can get in if it wants to.
Right.
That's not its purpose. Its purpose is to make you feel bad.
Hmm.
So if you go, "Oh my gosh, it fooled me, it duped me. I've made a mistake. I'm not good enough." Oh, that's
It feeds
exactly what
off of
it
that.
wants,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's where it gets its power.
Yeah.
So in a way, I say this is going to sound opposite, but don't be discerning. Be interested. Be any voice who comes to me. Let me hear what you have to say
Hmm.
because I know I'm so powerful. I know that I have access to high frequencies. So who cares? If a low frequency being comes in, great. I'm going to learn something from it. And if
Yeah.
it does something to me that I don't appreciate, then I'm going to go, oh, okay. Well, then there must be some low hanging fruit that
Hmm.
I can work on. Maybe it's a trauma whose emotion is still stored within me that I can go ahead and release.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that I get too wrapped up in things that make me angry or fearful or any number of things like that. Okay, well, then maybe I can start to step out of those things. Thank you, entity, for
Mm.
pointing out that these things needed to be resolved. And feel free to come back anytime I need that reminder, use it as a tool, as it truly is.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I really wanted to get to with all that.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I feel that giving our attention to the subject can be necessary for people who need support and need your guidance in the work that you offer. But beyond that, people can definitely get stuck in the duality game and fear, and the ego will do that. Is it Archangel Michael? Is it not? It even becomes where they get addicted to. I know light workers who are addicted to the false light. Every time they leave the house, they're constantly looking for some
Right.
illusion that they need to see through because now their
Hmm.
their reticular activating system is programmed and oriented toward finding the reptilian archontic influences, and it just drains you of your joy and your life force,
Right.
which is what an entity is attracted to. Because what I want to dispel for
Hmm.
people, Xane, is that these entities, and it took me years of my own experiences with them and clients and doing this work, of really understanding you're not even a mosquito. You can't even really bite me. You can get me to bite myself, but only because I'm not aware that those thoughts are not my own, or that those
Right.
impulses are coming from a place that isn't truly my divine frequency. But when you talk about, I don't care who they are, and um, just don't give your attention to them, learn from them. I can feel that you've done an incredible amount of work, and ayahuasca definitely can clear you out, but I can feel that you've obviously gotten yourself to a point of reaching on this podcast what we call towards singularity or unity, where you're really good, even with your science mind, at stepping outside of duality, seeing something as neutral, and the ability to withdraw something positive from something that is actually feeding off of you negatively. That's alchemy. That's being a spiritual alchemist right there. That's what I want people to hear, because I know there are going to be thousands of people who hear this at some point who have dealt with entities or are dealing with things like that. So it's important to be aware. But like myself back in the day, it would immediately pull me into fear. I would immediately
Mhm.
get anxious
Of
that there
course.
was some invisible, energetic, demonic thing. And I even gave it that much power by calling it that,
Oh yeah.
was on me, and I couldn't flick it off, or I couldn't shower it off. What do you mean it's on me? So how do I need to go see a witch doctor and pay them $5,000 to take this off of me? Because I've had that happen before too, where I've had
Oh
psychics tell
yeah.
me there are things on you and I can take it off of you for
Hmm. And you
5,000
can't
plus
do it
shipping and handling.
yourself.
And you can't do it yourself. There it is right there. I'm like, the missing key there is that if we know we're healers and we're not really healing anyone, we're inspiring them to heal themselves, then everyone has true sovereignty over their energy field and can dispel an entity, should they know how to do that without being drawn into fear. I mean, in my medicine journeys, I've had ayahuasca journeys even where I was could have been really scared of what I was seeing because it was so overwhelming. But I chose not to in that moment. And I don't know how and why I chose not to be afraid of something that was actually supposed to try to scare me to bring a fear to the surface.
Right.
It's a weird little game. And when you have those multidimensional experiences in your psyche with psychedelics and meditation, you are going to know, you're going to see things like entities very differently. So in your work, how you have a program called Detached. Tell us, however much you're willing to tell us, about the work you do and the importance of removing these entities and why you've come to this point. Why is it
Sure.
that Xane has become, the master of removing entities instead of, owning a crystal shop? Why did your mission bring you here?
Right, right. Well, it kind of happened organically, of course, as it would. And I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to leap off of something you just said about
Sure.
being um, in that ayahuasca state where you had a fear experience possible for you, but you chose not to go down that route. I remember my first one, and it was actually my first interaction with the spirit of ayahuasca herself.
Hmm.
And everything was going swimmingly. She was teaching me all this great stuff. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden I saw demons in my view.
Yeah,
And
me too.
and I
That's what I
went,
was seeing.
"Oh no, demons." And I said, "Gosh, things were going so well." And then I remember just saying, "Well, you know what? If you think that demons are what I need right now, then okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
then they must be. So, and this is only my second ayahuasca experience, so it's
But
not like I had.
don't you feel like how could you not know that? When you work with DMT and ayahuasca, you become so merged with higher mind that the
Right,
thought occurs to you to be more powerful, to
right.
look at this like this is an obstacle course and a virtual reality that grandmother has set up for me. And when I got the demonic faces with the tongues and the multiple layers of teeth, I was super detailed, okay?
Yeah,
And I can hang with some scary stuff, but during that experience, because you can't turn and look away,
right.
that also really scared me that I couldn't make it stop. But then
That's
just the
interesting.
thought occurred to me, why don't you turn them into butterflies?
Ah, okay.
And they started to burst. And then I kept telling her, bring it on, more teeth, more tongues. Like, this
Hmm.
isn't scaring me. And then
Right.
it stopped as soon as I
Yep.
said, this isn't
Yeah, that
scaring me.
was the end of my story too. As soon as I said, okay, then I must need them for some reason. I trust in you, right?
Mm,
Whatever you think I need is right. And
yeah,
then whoosh, they were gone
I know.
instantly.
It was
So
almost like
it was
do you think that
submission in
they
a
were
way.
your demons? Like for me, I feel like they were my demons in literal form that I was integrating and saying, I'm no longer afraid of my shadow. That's what it was for me. Do you
Hmm.
feel that they were representative of something, or were you actually interfacing with certain demonic entities in the fourth dimension on your way during that journey? What do you feel? Mine was very symbolic and was all about clearing fear, and it wasn't actual demonic entities.
Right. Well, I think that she knew that I didn't need a lot of fear work, but I think that she said, okay, well, let's just make sure. And
Yeah, that's how it felt. Yeah.
yeah, really, truly. And I've referenced that so much. It's been a major teaching point because the way that we look at this stuff, instead of, like you said, you can't turn away. Well, I it made me laugh kind of because I thought, well, why would you ever want to turn away? Because it's all great, it's
Mhm.
all helpful or purposeful.
Yeah.
So, that's the core that I got out of it is to go toward the thing you're afraid of rather than run
Mm.
away from it, and then you'll discover how powerful you truly are.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the most important messages of our conversation so far is leaning into those areas. And when we talk about the fear that can come for light workers and star seeds, mystics, psychic children like myself, people who are very sensitive, the Hollywood had something to do with it for me in making anything unseen automatically scary. Okay. So I had to deal with that.
Right.
But in general, there were just things that happened that are spooky. They were spooky. And for spiritual people, when we have these conversations about leaning into the fear, it's one thing to, invest in something when you're afraid you won't have enough money, but you invest and get the return on investment. When we talk about spiritual interactions with upper dimensions and things like that and fear, people don't know how to navigate that because it's
No.
so unseen. And when someone says there's a ghost in your house, how I would rather have a bear trying to get into my house than a malevolent spirit in certain ways because it's in my home and I don't know where it is and I don't know how to eradicate the issue.
Right, right.
Besides my sage and palo santo, my incantations and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
But what if
Hmm.
that doesn't work?
Right, right.
Our brain
Oh
can
yeah.
do this thing, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
Ugh,
what if it doesn't work? Well, it kind of doesn't, right? Because what it's really there for is not to have you light Palo Alto, right? It's there to help you gain some sort of great knowledge or to raise your frequency or something
yeah,
like that.
this
That's
is
its
gonna
purpose,
this
right?
might piss some people off hearing some of this because there will be people listening who say, so you're telling me that an evil demon from hell itself is here to help me? And I just want to say, from the listener listening to you, my
Hmm.
perception of that is you can take something, because I know you and I understand hell and the devil and all of that differently than many people out here in the world.
Sure.
Or we feel something differently about it than many people do. But even if it was that insidious, can you be so powerful to take that dark energy and transmute it into light or to turn it on its head? Kind of like at the entire conversation, they keep showing me the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. And there's a part at the end where she's like, I'm not afraid of you anymore. And he loses all of his power after
Right.
all of those blood and guts and all of that cinematic experience to end with, oh, yeah, I was giving you the power the whole time. And
Hmm.
that to me as a child, I took that with me as a psychic child, remembering that the more afraid I was, if it was really there to make me afraid, I was giving it what it wanted. And but it still didn't take the fear all the way away because there really something standing at the foot of my bed staring at me because it feels like
Right.
that. So when we're
Right.
dealing with ascended masters, entities, demons, all of the range of different beings that we encounter in the fourth dimension and above, it's hard for people to trust it because they're still trying to trust themselves. They're still trying to
Right.
trust the
Right.
government here, let alone, am I fully equipped to interface with something that's naming itself Jesus and be able to say, go away, you're not really Jesus, and just blow it off like that? That I couldn't have done that 10 years ago. I would have
Hmm.
believed it. I would have thought, wow, I didn't really believe that someone named Jesus existed in the way that you're appearing right now. But since you're here, I'm going to believe it. That's why I felt like it came from the Vatican. There's a
Right.
lot of
Right.
religious mind control programming happening that are turning light workers back to religion using these entities.
Oh, I see. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By
Well,
scaring them back into the church, by going, see, that's what happens when you play with tarot cards and do all this meditating and stuff as you encounter these demons. So it's time to
I
go back
see.
to the church and save yourself from it.
Well, I feel that the answer to that and everything else that you're afraid of, like if you're afraid of one particular political party or you're afraid of war is going to break out or whatever it is that you're afraid of, to say, wait a minute, who's more powerful, the
Hmm.
universe or this thing that you're afraid
Yeah.
of?
Yeah.
Every time it's a joke, it's a laugh, and you can go, oh gosh, okay, so what? And then you can go, once you get to this point, you can say, wait a minute, who's more powerful? The Vatican's mind control thing or
Or
me over
me.
my energy field.
And
There's
that's a good
nothing
point,
that
Zane.
can do anything to that if I don't allow it to.
I often wondered, why did that happen? I felt like it was a little bit of a test, or it was just, this is what happens to psychic people. You're going to interface with beings like this, and I do. I just had never interfaced with, I had interfaced with Yeshua many times,
Yeah,
but the experience of, I'm here with my mother Mary to save you thing, I had never had that happen. When people talked about Jesus appeared to me and told me he wanted to save me, I always thought that, well, that must be a thought form or something. And I just never interacted with it. And then I did.
hmm,
And what was interesting is that he brought in Isis as well, like Isis as Mary. It was all very strange where I kept feeling, what does this have to do with the healer, Yeshua? Because if you're not him, I'm good. But 10 years ago, I would have just thought, maybe I was wrong. You know,
hmm.
when you say you don't need to use discernment, I agree with the way you mean it, but just the discernment I had to use in that moment of, okay, something was so powerful it got my attention. It's speaking to me. I'm feeling it. This is real. If I was not a psychic and I was just a normal person coming home from work and that happened, it would have been life changing.
Of
That
course.
wasn't to me, but
Right.
it would have been
Yeah,
life
that
changing and I would have
advice.
believed it.
Yeah, that advice is for those of us who have stepped into this world a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Or who have, I generally work with people who have had negative entities for 10, 20, 30 years. Like
Yeah. But
I
that was one
hardly
of my
ever,
questions for you
yeah,
was
I hardly
timelines
ever
of it.
work with people that have only had them for, a couple of months or something like that because
Yeah.
a lot of times they can watch my YouTube channel and get rid of them just through watching the
Exactly. I was
videos.
that was again another one of my questions was if they can get rid of it themselves. Not that the detached program isn't
That's all it
beneficial,
is. It's
but
it's
just
only
getting
it's
yeah, go
only
ahead.
helping them remove it themselves.
Yeah,
I'm doing
exactly.
things. I'm helping people, of course, through energy healing. I'm helping them, or,
You're
shed
like a yoga teacher. You're telling them
limiting
which poses to
beliefs.
get into, but
Right. I'm helping them raise their frequency through energy healing. There's many things that I'm doing, but I'm not directly addressing the entity. And it's
good.
really important to say that it's not about the entity, it's about the
Interesting.
individual.
Interesting. Your approach is very different because everyone else would target the entity,
Yeah.
but that would sometimes feed it or zoom in on it. So
Oh,
your
absolutely.
approach is to, you know what Spirit showed me earlier? It was like 10 minutes ago and I didn't say it. was when you were talking about your program or something that you do, they said to me, he actually helps them. It's no different than a lot of other spiritual programs, other than the fact that this is about entities. But they said he's actually helping them to like raise their vibration and like live their full truth. And that pushes them out on its own. And I was like, oh, well,
Right on.
shit, duh.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I discovered it in the first place because I had actually created that program. I didn't call it detached. I don't even remember now what I called it, but
Yeah.
I had created it to help people ascend and raise their frequency and so forth. And then I made it one YouTube video about removing negative entities because it came up with maybe one person one day. I went, "Oh, okay, well, let's just remove this thing," and it made them feel great, and they were so much happier. So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I can make a short little YouTube video about that." So I did. And then all of a sudden people are showing up going, help me, help me. How do I, how do I get rid of this
It's a
entity?
big market too. There are people who don't really know what they're doing, who their entire business is based around removing demons and dark energies or whatever
Right,
they're naming them as.
right.
And it has gotten me. I've had psychics convince me. I did not give them $5,000, but I went home and thought about it because I was
Right.
scared. They told me
Of
this
course.
entity is going to affect your money and you're never going to find love. And once you
Oh yeah.
get these psychics, some of them who are not in their heart, they are so good at using their abilities to target your
Mhm.
vulnerabilities. And I feel that I went through all these things because if you asked my mom, she would think I haven't even seen one psychic, let alone the amount of experiences you've had, Chris. And I believe I was being fine tuned from a young age and being brought to places to see what not to do, what is happening, so that I could be the best practitioner I could be. But also, I now work with entities, and those types of things show up in our retreats and our shamanic ceremonies as entities removing or leaving our ceremony space because of the medicine. And I would not have nearly the amount of wisdom and
Mm.
experience if it weren't for being on the client side of that at one
Right.
point.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so one of the things, oh, you had said that maybe somebody watching would be upset maybe by the idea that the entities are actually here to help
yeah,
us.
I just like to play devil's advocate and speak
Yeah.
for the people who may not be understanding you the way I do.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say to those folks who might be upset by that a little bit, even to imagine if you approached negative entities in the way that I'm describing, where you're not afraid of them and you're learning or wanting to learn from them. How effective might that be? It's going to
Mhm.
be, just really think it through. If you are the powerful one and they are the weak one, if you look at them as a tool, as a helpful thing, then they don't have the upper hand anymore.
Yeah.
Immediately you have it. And
Yeah.
that's one of the major things that I teach is how to truly step into your power. And, you know, everybody says that's what you need to do, but
They
nobody
are.
tells you
They're all
how to
saying
do
it.
it,
I
right?
know.
Nobody tells
Yeah.
you how to do it. And
Yeah.
I do in the program, but it has to come at a certain point. They have to get to a certain point in their healing process and then bam, as soon as they do it, they go, "Oh my gosh, this is the opposite of what I would have ever thought."
Yeah.
And now, this thing, this entity who was bothering me went from a 10 on a 1 to 10 scale to a 4, and then the rest of the time they're just going to go 3, 2, 1, 0, and
And
that's what we
these
want.
entities, not to go too deeply into them and give them all their spotlight and everything, but just so people, I have picked up entities at the grocery store before,
Sure.
you know, people's that were on someone else, or I came in contact with someone and spoke to them, and there was this exchange, and these types of things happen. But those feel like astral mosquitoes that jump
Mm,
around, or there's this kind of, oh, you're psychic, let me
yeah.
interface with you sort of thing, whether they were human or not. Because I also want to let people know a lot of these entities, it's not like they're disincarnate beings who were once human and they're stuck in the astral plane and just sucking the life out of you.
That's just
That
story.
has happened.
That's
But
just
what
story though.
yeah,
It's still a distraction from you.
totally. Totally. And so the entities that you talk about that have been there for years, describe some of the ways in which people can identify? Without focusing on the entity necessarily, let's talk about ways in which people can sort of identify, I have an entity, because I have had these thoughts for years. Do I have an entity? Do I have an entity? Before I realized how common it was, especially for a psychic person, to interface with those types of things. I thought I was doing something wrong for having an entity on me, right?
Yeah.
So these long-term entities, what are they like and why are they staying around so long? And are
Well,
they attached to trauma?
N- 95% of the time, you know that it's an entity because it's talking to you constantly. I mean, those are the ones that I'm dealing with. Is the
When you say
again the
constantly talking to you, because I'm Gemini sun, so I constantly talk to myself in my head, but you
oh
mean
right.
there's a,
Well, oh
like
yeah,
I've dealt
they
with that in
say
readings where I can feel that someone talking to me.
right. They say you instead of me, right?
Oh,
They
interesting.
actually have a persona, they have a personality. They are
Yeah,
different than them. And and for them it's very clear. Very
yeah,
rarely do I have anybody whose entity does not speak to them if they've been around for 10, 20, 30 years. Like those are the
interesting.
ones that really stand out.
Yeah,
And those are the most difficult ones to remove. I mean, they've really
absolutely. They're so
integrated
deeply embedded.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people out here may have entities and parts of their fractured personality, or their psyche that's, kind of even mental illness sometimes. It can feel
yeah.
like there may be something that has integrated. And so there's two different points of focus happening, which is causing a meltdown in the
Hmm.
psyche, the brain, and the whole emotional system.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I've worked
desire
with
to go
people
here, but the entity doesn't.
with diagnosed schizophrenia and
Yeah.
undiagnosed schizophrenia and medicated diagnosed schizophrenia.
Mhm.
I've worked with all of
Wow.
that whole realm as well, and it's very interesting to kind of compare those who had the diagnosis for with people who haven't had the diagnosis,
Yeah.
and how what's the best way to say this? Like the similarities that pronounce themselves even in
Yeah.
people who do not have schizophrenia,
Yeah.
because schizophrenia, okay, it's a Western medicine diagnosis that they
Hmm.
don't really understand what's truly happening. And I've interviewed um, psychiatrists, and they say, yeah, it's an overabundance of dopamine in the brain, or sometimes it's a lack of dopamine in the brain that
Well, how
causes
come when
it.
we have overabundance of dopamine from certain drugs, we don't automatically hear instructive voices of different cadences and different
Right,
sometimes
right.
they hear them with reverb on them like they're in a cave and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Where is the sound? I know our brain translates the sound, so it's coming from within, but where is the frequency coming from
right,
that's even creating that resonance or that rattle, right?
right,
I've always wondered, and
right.
when I tune to it psychically, it feels like they're being bombarded.
Yeah. Well, and what I've also noticed is that I have an overabundance of dopamine, and I know this through when I have coffee, the caffeine makes the brain produce just a little bit more dopamine, right? Well, at
Hmm.
that point, I have a terrible stutter and I can barely even speak. So I can't have
Interesting.
caffeine anymore.
Yeah.
That's because I'm so close to the top of having too much dopamine.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now I can speak to entities, or in this case, high frequency beings.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the difference? There
Interesting.
isn't really any. It's how connected are you to the spirit world? And if you are, how high frequency can you be? How much can you love everything, everyone, the entire experience? And then you're going to be speaking to the high frequency beings
Yeah.
as opposed
Yeah.
to the low frequency ones.
People ask me all the time, how do I keep them out or how do I keep them in? And, in opening invocations, I call in beings of the highest realms and that sort of thing. And there have been other mentors of mine who would also compassionately disinvite darker energies or denser energies. And oftentimes, while I'm invoking, I feel this strong need not to even name them. You know, it's like we won't even interact with that because we've already
Right.
sent our coordinates here. But it took a lot of healing work for me to be able to possibly encounter something that is multidimensional and frightening, or does not have my best interest at heart, and to be able to just say, be gone and
Yeah.
do my incantations that I do. So it took a lot of healing because I do believe even light workers who have the best intentions of raising the vibration on the planet when they're holding a lot of ancestral trauma, past life trauma, even trauma from this lifetime specifically that is not healed or is still ruling certain aspects of them. Those entities are attracted to those openings or those tears in the energy field almost, or those weak spots. Is that how you normally see it, or how do they attach? People are going to want to know where do they come in? How is this happening?
I don't care. And they shouldn't either. It's a waste of time.
So your program basically bypasses the what and the how and just says, here's
Oh
what to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why should we focus on that? The what and the how. Okay, well, there is some what and how, but it's about them.
Mhm.
Again, it's about what are their limiting beliefs? Do they have a subconscious belief that entities are more powerful than them? If they do, then they will be. Do they
Yeah,
have a
I did. I
subconscious
used
belief
to.
that they are not safe? The I am
Mm.
safe statement. If
Yeah.
that is false in their subconscious, then it's going to be much harder to get rid of the entity.
Yeah.
There's so many different angles to take that we can do. And once we do all of these things, they get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker
Hmm.
and go away.
Hmm.
That's all we have to worry about. I don't care anything else. It's all like I've said a couple of times, it's all a distraction.
Now they say, and I agree with you, and although I'm very curious and I like to know all the ins and
Sure.
outs,
And that's fun, right?
I
If
like
you
the
can find that
ingredients,
to
even
be
though they don't matter.
fun, then it's okay. And
Yeah,
let me say this real quick. If you find it to be fun and interesting, then it's great. One
it's
of
a
the
different
problems that
vibe.
we have is that we overthink. We're always trying to solve problems. This brain is
Hmm.
to solve problems. This brain is not to just have a good old time. This
Right.
brain is compensating for the fact that we can't run very fast and we don't have thick hide and we don't have sharp claws. We have to survive through problem solving.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so then we're presented with this difficult spiritual problem. And so the brain starts going, okay, where does this come from? How do I solve it? Because it's very good at fixing a hole in the roof. Hey, there's water coming in. Oh,
Yeah.
that must mean that there's a hole on the roof. Oh, I'm going to get a ladder. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to change the flashing around the chimney, whatever, right? We've got this down. But when we try to apply it to the spirit world, it doesn't work at
I
all.
know.
And if
The rules
anything, all it
change.
does is it creates more and more of what the entity wants. So by
Yes.
focusing on, oh man, why did it come here? What did I do to deserve this? Did I do something wrong? I can't solve it. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting angry. I can't find the solution. All that's doing is feeding the entity, feeding the entity, and feeding the entity.
Hmm. I can see that, and I have like a movie playing out in front of me right now, and I sort of just want to describe it to you and to see if you resonate. But basically, what I'm being shown is that as we're moving up in frequency from what we would call 3D to 4D into this 5D, this unity heart place consciousness, there's that 4D band, which is the collective thought field. It's the astral plane. It's where all these boogeymen exist. They don't exist in
Mhm.
the upper dimensions, these negative ones, because they
Right,
they have to exist here because this is the realm of duality. Oh,
right.
wow. I got a download last night, Zane, while I was in bed. It just randomly, these things will come in where spirit, and I already knew this, but for some reason they were really driving it home, or it was really my higher self kind of communicating with me about something. And it said, all these negative things you experience and all the negative things that are here that you all consider negative, they are supposed to be here. They do belong here in the third
Yes,
dimension and in the
yes.
fourth dimension. If there's
And you signed up
duality
to experience them.
and you wanted it, it wasn't supposed to be
Mhm.
this mass judgment. There is a version of us that can see both of them as equal, or as, the darkness just the opposite of the light rather than this insidious force ready to take over the light. The darkness always serves the light because it is the light, actually, just split into a duality. That's
Right.
what people are not always ready to hear, and they're not energetically up to speed with us on, which is why all of this can create such existential fear and dread. I even have light workers who deep, 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 deep down have a fear of going to hell.
Yeah.
They don't want it. They don't logically believe it, but
Yeah.
it's in their DNA almost. They're still having to fight that witch wound that they have of being a psychic practitioner and what that would
Right.
mean for their eternal damnation or not, on a cellular level. So what they're showing me is that as we're ascending, we're moving through the fourth dimension, and the fourth dimension is like a swamp of mosquitoes, and it's a paradise. You have the upper and the lower. So as we're crossing through, many of us light workers, they're showing me, are going to attract negative entities to us, not only because it helps and serves us, kind of like a catalyst, create this negative. It's Abraham Hicks 101. The contrast is what breeds the experience here, right?
Right.
We can look at it that way, but Spirit just showed me many of us are attracting entities because when they come into our energy field, they actually transmute themselves through attaching to us. I've had entities who have been on me who are no longer of that frequency
Hmm.
because of the work we did together in my own healing process. And I
Right.
didn't know until way after. Nor did
Hmm.
I ever think about, I wonder if that low frequency energy could attach to me and both of us raise our frequencies together and you transmute back into light. I never really saw it that way, and people aren't thinking of it that way.
Right.
So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of people dealing with what you are helping people with, which is probably why you got this download to go in this direction, which may have felt like an innocent YouTube video, but we know how spirit works. It
Oh,
starts
yes,
with those.
yes, absolutely. Right.
But I feel like it was a needed service now, especially for other light workers, is what they're showing me.
Right. I want to dovetail onto a thought that I had a long time ago, a download,
Mhm.
where I was, I would run into people, or I would read forums or Facebook posts or whatever, where people were saying that, oh, they just want to get to the fifth dimension. They don't want to
I
have
know.
to
I
deal
know.
with this low frequency anymore. And it came to me like this. Imagine that there was a doorway just standing in the middle of the field, and I'm standing there with it, and I open the door and I say, "Here, look at this." You look through the door frame and you see a paradise, the world of fifth dimension. Everything is perfect. Everyone loves. There's no more conflict. There's no more greed. There's no more all these things. And of course, the question is, would you step through the door? The answer is, why would I do that? Because I absolutely love everything exactly as it is.
I'm on the
I
same
don't
page.
have to escape through that doorway.
Mhm.
And guess what? That means you're in the fifth dimension
That's right. That's right.
already.
That's
And
right.
those who say, "Yeah, I definitely go through the doorway," I'd say, "Well, guess what? You're still in the same place. It
Yeah.
didn't, nothing changed. You didn't go to that paradise world. You went to the current world."
Yeah. The world you're in is the vibration you're putting out. This is the stuff we've
Right.
been talking about for thousands of years. We are creating our own reality. And when, the fifth dimension, excuse me, the fifth dimension is a frequency, not a location. So thank you
Hmm.
for bringing
Right.
that up for people to really keep reminding themselves, because it
Yeah.
sounds like a upper floor when it's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
It's not even better. Source looks at the third dimension as beautifully as it looks at the eighth
It's
dimension. It would
perfect.
not
It's perfect.
exist if
It's
it was
perfect.
not meant to belong under the umbrella
Of
of
course.
source.
Right.
And that's what people still have, this idea that there is a God that created everything, that accidentally picked up some stuff, and I don't know where to put this devil in his hell realm, so I guess we'll put it under there somewhere, and I don't know
Right.
how to get rid of him.
Accidentally.
Although I
Right.
created everything, it's
Yeah.
bizarre. Now we have to move into the idea of this source, this, I don't even like calling it the creator, because we are the creator.
Right.
We
Exactly.
are
Yeah.
source creating this
Yes.
through
Yes.
source.
Right.
So I think the work that we do, and to sum all of this up, is bringing people back to their power, bringing people back into their sovereignty, where they realize you are sovereign in the third dimension. Even if the ghosts are moving your keys around, you can tell them to stop. You can also interface with them and play with them back.
Right.
There's so many
Oh,
options.
cool. Wonder where you're going to put the keys this time.
Yeah. Because a lot of them are your relatives who have crossed over, who are still able to play in this 4D, 3D realm and are loving on you. So much, or so much love. Let me just say there's about 99% more love coming at us from spirit than there ever would be fear and dread, because all of that just exists here in the third dimension.
Yeah. I mean, but if you think about it, there's 100% love coming at you,
Yeah,
even
you're right.
in the form of fear and dread, because
Yeah,
that's
love that.
actually unconditional love,
Love
because
that.
the only thing that exists is unconditional love.
Mhm.
If it exists, it is unconditional love, and that means that it is source. And
Yeah,
so there's nothing to be afraid of
afraid of.
because you can just love it all exactly as it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And some people would be able to hear this conversation and go, I get it. It's locking in. I feel what he's saying. There's other
Right.
people who are listening who are saying, mentally, I get it, but I'm still afraid.
Of
And then there
course.
are other people listening who would not even really get what we're saying at all.
Right.
Bears are
Yeah.
scary. The dark is scary. Murderers are scary. Ghosts are
Right.
scary. Like, why are you all sitting on here having this in depth conversation about something so simple
Yeah.
when they've decided to lock themselves into that's what you're afraid of, that's what you're not afraid of, and we're here to
This is
question it.
good. This is
This
bad.
is bad.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that is duality, and that's what
Hmm.
I feel light workers are here to dissolve that duality, not because it's wrong, but because in our timeline, our solar system is getting closer to the galactic center instead of further away and spiraling out. We just happen to be climbing our way back to source rather than getting away from it in this dimension. And I believe we're just oriented toward returning to spirit, and not because the physical dimensions are wrong, dense, or bad. And that's what most people don't have a
Well,
firm.
and we came here to experience the physical dimension, obviously, because
Mhm.
we live in it, or we exist prior to this. I guess we can say prior because we have to think of things in a linear fashion because our
Yeah,
brains are
I
built that
know.
way, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so before we came here, we were bathed in unconditional love bliss. And so we
Hmm.
said, huh, what are these other frequencies? What's fear? I can't even access that because I
Yeah.
know that I'm invincible. I know that I'm nothing can ever change. So how could one experience fear? It's impossible to even understand it. Oh, well, what I could do is I could go be an earthling and try that on for size because now I get to experience these other emotions that are
Yeah.
inaccessible to me.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, then that's where I'm going to go and I'm going to try it out. So it's really important, in my opinion, to enjoy this life
Yeah.
exactly as it is. You need to
Yeah.
change nothing ever and love it all exactly as it is.
It's taken me a long time to get to that point because even early on in my healing journey, it was about perfecting it and getting it right. And I didn't realize the angle I was coming at it with because I just wasn't
Right.
aware of that yet.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, my life has been as dual as you can get. I've been suicidal. I've also, most of my life, loved life so much that I've been afraid of death because I don't want to leave this planet and go to somewhere where there's no uh, TV and friends and sex. And I am okay with it here. I do
Yeah.
not approve or appreciate what's happening on this planet in certain regards. I often don't give my attention to it either, but when I do, there are things that I would prefer to change, but I don't have a belief that it should not exist because I
Right.
don't like it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
I
I
think that's
allow
very well
it.
said. I think that's very
Yeah.
well said because if you just go, okay, well then all the terrible things that are happening, great, right? No, there's a motivation there. If you can tack into something like that and go, you know what? I'd like to make a change. And
Hmm.
I'm going to go about making that change in a three-dimensional way.
Hmm.
I'm going to find a way to random item, pick up more plastic from the ocean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Physical.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like that means that you don't have to follow a spiritual path in I'm just going to sit and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to make all the plastic disappear from the
What we
ocean.
call
Bing.
spiritual path. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Instead, I'm going to go out in a boat and I'm going to, and traverse this physical world and go out there and help collect plastic. Wow, that's amazing. That's what you're here then to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's
There's so many, like so much stuff coming in right now that I want to say, similar to like when you talk about going and picking up plastic. Well, first of all, if you're doing it out of love for the planet, how spiritual is that? And people
exactly
really believe that spirit is misty and ethereal and Neptunian, and there's nothing more spiritual than sex or taste. Do you know how many entities and disincarnate beings will merge with your energy field just to smoke cigarettes, drink, and eat sugar through us to kind of vibrate with the pleasure that we get from it.
Sure.
Okay, there is a juiciness and a palpability about being in the physical realms. And I have felt many times like I didn't belong on this planet, or I wanted to get out of my physical body and be done with this
Mm-hmm.
life. But how beautiful at the end of my life will it be to see how much I expressed the duality here,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
which is what I came for. But it took
Right.
years to say to myself, you chose this because you all the wonderful things that have happened, I've chosen too. So I'm going to take the dark
And all
with
the
the
bad
light.
things.
Yeah.
And,
Or what I'm deeming bad, which many of those bad
right.
things that I thought were bad were so good for
We're
me in the
good.
long run.
Yes.
All of us in this journey are navigating being human, but also now navigating being superhuman, which is going to come with experiences like navigating entities and things like that. This is not going away because we're moving through dimensional planes. And so we're going to interact with many different types of beings of light and darkness. But if the true alchemist is able to appreciate the iron or the base metal and polish it and love on it so much that it polishes it up, and that's what raises its vibration. I'm not trying to raise the planetary vibration because I think it's bad, but because that is what I've come here to do. That is the mission that I'm on. I do believe there are other people who come here who are just as spiritually awakened or even on a similar mission to myself, who have come here to create or to densify more darkness. Not because darkness is bad, but because the more density, the more light is able to come in to clear it. That's what they don't get. The darkness always serves the light.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I don't have that fear as many light workers do. Do you ever have clients or other light workers come up and go, are the reptilians going to win, or the archons going to win, or the negative entity, are the gray aliens or the
Right.
zeta reticuli, are they
No,
going to
but I
win?
think it's because they
As
know
if we're in a
better to
war.
ask me that question. I know the whole war thing is hilarious to me. Um, okay, well, one of the I thought what you were gonna say because light workers have come up to me and said, "Oh man, you're doing the tough work, right?" Like they see the entity
Because
work and
they
they
see
go,
you getting in there and doing psychic surgery and ripping demons out of people. And most people are scared to do that work, Zane. So we're
yes,
proud of
because
you.
right,
Yeah.
because oh, if you pull one out, doesn't it mean it's going to attack you? Like, that whole mindset, of course. Well, first of all, the first thing I want to say to that is I came here for the challenge of being a human being. That is definitely what I came here for.
Mhm.
I don't just like you don't like to watch a movie where there's no challenge for the main characters to overcome because it's super boring. Or if you've ever played a video game where you have a cheat code and you can just go
I
right through the
know.
game and
Yeah.
never have any challenge, you're just like halfway
Yeah.
through the game, you're like, why am I still doing this? Ugh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
turn this off. I came here to have those challenging experiences and to overcome them and to one day go, man, I did it. And then go immediately to where's the next one? Because
Mhm.
that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if you bring that into everything that you do, then once again, we're not running away from the problem, we're running toward it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're
Which is where the
embracing all the
solution
learning.
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
both said the same thing. I said embracing all the learning, and you said where
we're
that's
in
where
the
the solution
solution.
is,
Yeah.
right?
Because we're on the same page. I'm getting all of this. And that's why I love having these conversations with people where it stretches us. Because I've definitely had some aha moments during this time of checking in with myself around my own words and the way I see things on a
Mm,
subconscious level based on, how I'm trying to understand it or frame it, where I think I could even be more smart with it. I can work smarter, not harder as a light worker by seeing that as an opportunity for growth rather than
hmm.
some bullshit you're going to have to encounter as a light worker, on your way to
Right.
5D. It doesn't have to be, it can constantly be characters in the Alice in Wonderland story that show up to enhance the journey, but also catalyze you into the next part of it,
Hmm.
which you're meant to go in. And I
Well,
think if we took all the light and the darkness, if we were able to accept our shadow, and I love that we're recording this right before Samhain on Halloween, and we have all of this shadow work that people are doing right now. And if we can incorporate the darkness and the shadow, we would have 50% more energy here in this uh, physical duality dimension than we would if we only focused on the light. That's being an inefficient light worker by ignoring the shadow or what you would deem the opposite of the light.
Right.
You've got this
Right.
whole bandwidth of energy you can work with. I remember a healer one time saying to me that she saw an entity in someone and she kept calling for Yeshua and other ascended masters and that sort of thing. And the entity was growing. And she all of the sudden had this strong urge to call forth the entity Satan. And she's a light worker. And she called forth this entity or this Rolodex of codes that comes with, and it
Yep.
suffocated it. And it was gone after that. She said,
Mhm.
I had to use the dark against the dark, if you want to look at it that way, and that's just how it worked in that moment on that specific entity. And she
Mhm.
said, I had to reframe my entire belief system around,
Yeah.
she understood Satan wasn't a person and that it was this Saturnian construct here. But even the program she didn't want to have anything to do with. But then she realized, holy shit, I can use that dark program to serve the light.
Mhm.
And it doesn't
And
have to
is it
mean
dark
anything about
anymore?
me. And is it even dark anymore? Is suffocation wrong or is it just the opposite of breathing? Right?
Right.
And it's this sort of non dual getting out of our ego way of looking at all of this, which helps us to navigate the noble middle path, as Buddha would call
Mhm.
it. And
Mhm.
if we stay in our neutral point and in our balance point, which you would call your power, because as a dancer, it's like your core here, down here in your core. If you stay in your core, you will always stay balanced and you won't be pulled into the false light, into the darkness, into anything that is off of your true divine trajectory. And
Right.
that's what I want everyone to hear is that just like in your work, if you can get polished up, heal, and really reclaim your power, the entities have nothing to stay attached to.
Right.
How
If
simple
you,
is that?
yeah.
It's like,
No, it is. It's amazingly simple, yet, our three-dimensional brains make it very complicated.
as it is designed to do. It
Yes.
is it is designed to zoom in and look at the parts and understand and explore, but a lot of our exploring and our curiosity isn't coming from joy. It's coming from trying to survive or keep ourselves out of a bad situation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Anytime, I'm working with a client and they're telling me something, I go, okay, let's take a moment and look at that. Is what you just said high frequency or is what you just said low frequency? And
Yeah.
almost every time they can recognize it. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's low frequency. Oh man,
But no
I
one's
didn't even
ever
know I
there.
was doing it.
But they had to have someone outside of themselves reflect that back and give them a
Right.
choice, which is what plant medicines do.
Right.
We go into our journey, but the shaman might not be saying anything to you at the time, but their energy and the medicine spirit are feeding back things to you that your ego is not able to see because the
Right.
ego is pretty primitive. It's pretty designed
Oh,
to
yeah.
stay the same. So
Right.
that's why it's important that there are people like us who are here to hold space for other people in this weird work that doesn't have a degree or
Right.
some type of fast track career path. So we
Hmm.
sort of just have to let spirit lead us into these weird places to serve what the collective needs now in the
Yeah.
ascension process. So before we go, share with us about how your work helps other light workers or people who are ascending, and then share with us where we can find you and work with you.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's an interesting one because when I do have other light workers come to me, it's always the same sort of thing. Once
Yeah.
again, right? That they have fear. They're bringing fear into their practice. They're going, "Oh no, I don't want to work with this person because I'm going to end up with this entity." Or I'll have a light
Right.
worker who has an entity, can't figure out how the heck they got it. They do all their protection, they do all the different things that they're supposed to do, and they still got an entity. Like, what did I do wrong? Well,
I
it's
know
all
I
the
need
same
my
stuff.
refund policy on my Palo Santo and my selenite, and because these were supposed to keep all the dark away from me.
Right, right, right. Exactly.
They're like
Okay, well, that just
pacifiers.
means you have work that has to be done. And man, when you do it and you apply some of the things that we're going to work on over the next 7 weeks in Detached to your own clients, they're going to have an amazing experience too. So I love it when I get to work with a light worker. I think
Mm.
it's a wonderful, powerful experience because of how many more people they can help
Yes.
after the
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. The
And that's the
domino
other
effect.
fun thing. Like there are lots of light workers out there, right? And any one individual can go, okay, I'm going to watch this person for a while. I'm going to watch this person for a while. I'm going to watch this. We all have the same message, but we deliver it in a different way. And
Hmm.
so you watch one, you go, well, I don't totally understand all the words that that person's using, or that doesn't totally resonate with me. Oh, but this person over here, holy cow, I really get it, and I want to work with them. That's the
Hmm.
beauty of this whole thing. At some point I had some thought that, oh my gosh, all 7 billion of us are going to be light workers. How's that all going to work? And it's like, well, we actually need each other even more in that case. So it's kind of
Hmm.
perfect. So
Yeah. And that
yeah,
is coming. And I do believe that whether all of us right now are or not, as we keep these new generations keep coming, they keep coming in more sensitive, more intelligent, and more en masse, or the mass majority of them coming in with a higher state of consciousness. And then we have a huge shift in consciousness that's coming between 2027 and 2030. So we really are, I believe, some of us just being set up for the new wave of people who will need services. I'm sure your work will evolve as mine continues to do. But
mhm.
right now, where can we find you to work with you?
Right. So the two best ways are I have my website, which is xanedaniel.com, and you can set up a consultation and we can talk about everything that you're dealing with. And, I am definitely not a high pressure salesperson. I will
Yeah,
sit there and hear what you have to say, give tons of advice and feedback during that time. And if you want to work with me, then we can do some amazing things.
love that.
Um, or you can go to my YouTube channel, which is just under my name, Xane Daniel. And what you're going to find there is an awful lot. I mean, there's hundreds of videos on there
That's how I
that,
found you, was through many of those videos on YouTube.
yeah. So, and so many of those do
Help.
prevent
Yeah.
negative entity problems from continuing, right? Like,
I
and
had that thought
as,
earlier.
as well as removing alien implants and, so many different things. So,
Oh my gosh. Well,
either
now you
way.
just set us up for part two. Okay, so we're going to have Zane back on the podcast to talk about
Well, I would
alien
love it. I
implants.
feel I feel like we couldn't talk fast enough to get through all the amazing content that we had.
I know. That's why there'll have to be a part two, and we can go deeper into, like alien implants. It is a segue off of the entity conversation. It's
Mhm.
energetic, etheric material that needs to be removed, or is causing something to happen in your energy field that goes beyond your sovereignty. These are conversations that, while could instill fear, we need to come at them with all kinds of angles, because I have implants in my body, physical ones.
Me too.
And that's a little bit different than,
Oh, I think mine
just
might
the,
be energetic. I don't know if I have physical ones.
yeah, I do have a physical one. And
Mhm.
so that's definitely a conversation I'd like to have at some point. So everyone,
Absolutely.
thank you
And we
so
could.
much for joining. Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, I keep talking.
go
And,
ahead.
and we could even talk about our ayahuasca experiences because I'm sure there's
Absolutely.
many
I'd love
fun
to
things to
share,
discuss there. Yeah.
because and grandmother is here. I've got ayahuasca vine all over the place here. So she's with us,
Nice.
and I appreciate that we got to touch on her and how impactful she was to your awakening, and your catalyzing you into this new direction. Because
hmm
even now in the world, people are giving plant medicine a hard time. I don't need that. I don't need that to ascend. I don't
Right,
need.
right.
It's not a
You don't.
need. It's
You
a
don't need it.
teacher
You're
you go
right.
to.
You're
Exactly.
totally right. You don't
So
need
I'd
it.
love to go into that as well. So
Absolutely.
thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of Ascend the Matrix podcast. If you want to work with Zane, please go to xanedaniel.com, and that's Zane with with an X. I almost said with a Z. Zane with an X, okay? And also, if you are interested in his program, you can check out more information on the website and go to his YouTube channel. All of this will be listed in the show notes below. Also, if you're interested in working with me or have questions for me specifically, you can go to Chrys King, and that's Chrys with a Y, King with a Y.com. And of course, medicinealchemist.com, and Ascended-Astrology for the shamanic and astrological services. So thank you again for being here with me, Zane. This was an incredible conversation, and we'll see you all next time for Ascend the Matrix podcast.